The rain was relentless that night, pounding against the empty streets as if the heavens themselves were trying to wash away her pain. Soaked to the bone, her trembling hands clutched the handle of a suitcase that had seen better days. Each step she took toward the familiar blue house felt heavier than the last, as if the weight of the past was pressing down on her shoulders. She had promised herself she'd never return here, not after the things that were said, not after the silence that followed. But tonight, something inside her broke, something that refused to let her live another day without closure. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep sharing stories that remind the world how powerful love and compassion can be. The porch light flickered weakly, illuminating the path she once walked every day with laughter and dreams in her heart. The same path now reflected her shadow, small and uncertain against the pouring rain. She stood before the door, that old familiar door, the one she'd once painted white with him one spring afternoon, the paint still slightly uneven on the left side, where they'd gotten into a playful argument about who was better with a brush. Her fingers hesitated before knocking. 3 soft knocks. The same rhythm she used to use when coming home from work, a signal that always made him smile before he opened the door. For a moment, there was silence. Then the door creaked open, and there he was, standing under the warm yellow light, looking almost the same as the day she left. His beard was a little thicker, his hair slightly messier, but his eyes, those eyes, carried the same depth, the same quiet ache. He didn't say a word, neither did she. The sound of the rain filled the spaces between them. Inside, he was fighting a storm of his own. Every night for the past 6 months he'd sat in that same living room chair, a cup of untouched coffee growing cold beside him, waiting for the sound of a knock that never came. He told himself he was foolish, that she had moved on, that the doorbell would never ring again. But hope has a strange way of keeping people alive, sometimes long after reason says it shouldn't. He'd left the porch light on every night, just in case she remembered the way home. She wanted to say something, anything, to explain why she had left that night, why she couldn't stay. But the words got caught somewhere between her throat and her tears. It wasn't pride that had kept her away, it was guilt, the kind that builds walls taller than mountains. She had believed that leaving would make things easier, that distance would heal what anger and misunderstanding had broken. But distance only made the silence louder. He stepped aside quietly, letting her in without a word. The smell of home hit her instantly, a blend of old wood, rain, and the faint scent of coffee. Everything was almost exactly as she had left it. The pictures on the wall, the half-finished puzzle on the table, the worn-out throw blanket she used to wrap herself in on cold nights. The familiarity was too much. Tears streamed down her face before she could stop them. He noticed her shivering and disappeared for a moment, returning with a towel. As she took it from him, her hands brushed his, a small, electric reminder that even after everything, something between them still existed. Something fragile yet unbroken. In her mind, memories flashed like old film reels. Laughter over burnt toast, quiet arguments that ended with apologies, and the day she packed her bag, believing she was doing the right thing. He had called her name that day, asked her to stay, but she didn't look back. She thought love meant letting go. Tonight, standing in front of him again, she realized love also meant finding the courage to return. He finally spoke, his voice low. "And tired. You came back." She nodded, her lips trembling. "I wasn't sure you'd want me to." His eyes softened. "I never stopped wanting you to." The silence that followed wasn't empty anymore. It was heavy with everything they hadn't said. She sat down on the old couch, the one where they'd spent countless evenings talking about dreams and disappointments. It still had a small tear on the armrest, one he'd always said he'd fix someday. She looked around, noticing a few new things. A plant by the window, a new lamp in the corner, but the rest was frozen in time. He sat across from her, his gaze steady. "Why tonight?" he asked. Her eyes dropped to the floor. "Because I couldn't keep pretending I was fine. I thought I left because I needed space. But the truth is, I was running away from how much I still cared." The confession cracked something open inside him. He had spent months trying to erase her from his days, but she was everywhere. In the music he listened to, the way he still brewed 2 cups of coffee out of habit, the way he looked at the empty side of the bed every morning. Outside, the rain began to slow. The rhythm softened, as if the world itself was holding its breath. She continued, her voice trembling. I told myself you'd moved on, that maybe someone else was making you smile again. I thought coming back would just reopen old wounds, but tonight, I couldn't stop thinking about you. I needed to see if the light was still on. He took a slow breath, looking toward the porch. It never went off. Her tears fell harder. You waited? He nodded. Every night, that was when the dam broke. All the walls she had built came crashing down. She crossed the space between them, falling into his arms, her sobs muffled against his chest. He held her tightly, as if afraid that letting go would make her disappear again. It wasn't forgiveness that passed between them in that moment. It was understanding. The kind that doesn't need words. They stayed like that. For a long time, just listening to the rain, the soft ticking of the clock, and the shared rhythm of their hearts finding each other again. When she finally looked up, her eyes met his, and for the first time in months, she saw home. Later, as they sat side by side on the couch, she noticed something on the table, an unopened envelope with her name written on it. Her breath caught. You kept it? She whispered. He nodded. You left it the day you walked out. I couldn't open it. I thought if I did, it would mean you were really gone. With shaking hands, she picked it up. The paper was slightly yellowed at the edges. She opened it slowly, reading the words she had written in tears months ago. An apology, a confession of fear, a promise that she hoped time would forgive her for breaking. When she finished reading, she looked at him with wet eyes. I never meant to hurt you. He took her hand gently, and I never stopped loving you. The simple honesty of his words filled the room like warmth after a storm. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. The silence said it all, that sometimes love doesn't end when people walk away. Sometimes it waits patiently, quietly, believing that one day a knock will come again. Hours passed like minutes. They talked softly about what had happened, about what could be. Not every wound healed that night, but something began to shift. The rain outside stopped completely, replaced by the calm hum of the night. She smiled faintly. I didn't think you'd still be here. He smiled back. I didn't think you'd come back. Guess we were both wrong. They laughed softly, a fragile, hopeful sound. As the night deepened, she looked out the window and whispered, Maybe we could start over. He looked at her, eyes shining with quiet certainty. Maybe we never really ended. And in that small, simple moment, everything changed. The pain didn't disappear, but it became a part of their story. The part that made them stronger, more real. The past wasn't erased, but it was no longer a chain. It was a bridge back to each other. When morning came, the first light of dawn spilled across the floor. She stood by the door again, this time not to leave, but to breathe, to feel what hope felt like. The air smelled fresh, like new beginnings. He joined her, coffee mugs in hand, the warmth of them seeping into her fingers. For the first time in months, she smiled, not a forced one, but a real one. The kind that comes when you finally stop running. Sometimes, life gives you second chances disguised as rainy nights. Sometimes, the door you're afraid to knock on is the one that's been waiting for you all along. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of someone you once loved, or gave you hope that healing is possible, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep creating stories that bring comfort and light to hearts that need it most. And before you go, tell us in the comments, would you open the door if someone from your past knocked again?